By 200 CE, six Roman families had achieved total market dominance over something every citizen needed daily: food. They controlled the infrastructure that made commerce possible: vast storage networks, specialized shipping fleets, and the credit systems that financed the entire supply chain. Competitors couldn't just start rival businesses, they'd need to build parallel economies. These families had cultivated cozy relationships with regulators, often writing the very laws that governed their industry. When government officials retired, they joined family enterprises. When families needed expertise, they hired former officials. They'd eliminated alternatives through vertical integration and strategic acquisitions. New entrants faced impossible barriers: exclusive supplier contracts, predatory pricing in contested markets, and credit systems designed to favor established players. When challenged, they wielded their ultimate weapon: regulate us, and you'll harm the very people you're trying to protect. But this dominance didn't appear overnight. It followed a hidden cycle, a pattern so predictable that once you see it, you'll recognize it operating everywhere around you today. This is the story of how monopolies rise, why they fall, and why this cycle repeats endlessly across different eras and industries. The Roman grain families didn't start as monopolists. They started as problem solvers in a genuinely broken market. Picture Rome in the 1st century CE, over 1 million people depending on grain shipped from Egypt, North Africa, and Sicily. The existing system was a disaster. Supplies arrived sporadically. Grain rotted in inadequate storage. Price swings from abundance to near famine happened seasonally. Small merchants competed destructively, driving each other into bankruptcy while serving no one well. Marcus Sextius identified the core problem: storage. Roman winters saw grain imports drop to almost nothing, but the city's warehouses could barely hold a month's supply. His solution was massive investment in stone granaries that could preserve grain for an entire year. When harvest abundance drove prices down, Sextius bought aggressively. When winter scarcity sent prices soaring, he sold from his reserves. The result? Stable prices year-round and reliable food security for ordinary Romans. The Barby family tackled shipping chaos. Grain vessels were often converted wine ships or makeshift cargo haulers. Loads spoiled. Schedules were meaningless. Barby built purpose-designed grain ships with specialized holds and trained crews. They established reliable routes with predictable timing. The Cornelii saw financial dysfunction. Farmers needed credit for seeds and equipment, but faced ruinous interest rates from predatory lenders. Ship captains required voyage financing, but had no reliable sources. The Cornelii provided agricultural and commercial loans at sustainable rates, building relationships throughout the supply chain. Each family's innovations genuinely improved the market. Waste decreased, reliability increased, costs dropped. Rome's food security strengthened dramatically. This is how all monopolies begin, by creating real value and solving actual problems. The families were celebrated as innovative entrepreneurs who had modernized Rome's most critical industry. But success bred ambition. Profits enabled expansion. Market improvements created opportunities for control. Success allowed the families to reinvest aggressively, but instead of competing, they began coordinating. Picture the meeting in Marcus Sextius's villa around 150 CE, the most powerful men in Rome's food supply dividing territories. "You take Africa," Sextius tells Barbius. "We'll focus on Egypt. The Flavii handle Sicily." This was rational market allocation. Why waste resources on destructive competition when they could maintain profitable stability? Geographic specialization enabled vertical integration. The Sextii expanded from storage into Egyptian farmland and Roman bakeries. The Barbii moved from shipping into shipbuilding and port facilities. The Cornelii grew from financing into land ownership and retail operations. But their most sophisticated strategy was creating webs of dependency. Every loan came with preferred supplier relationships. Every storage contract included recommended transportation. Picture a Roman baker needing grain, storage, credit, and delivery. The Cornelii offer attractive loans, but only for grain from Sextii warehouses, transported by Barby ships. The baker isn't forced into this arrangement. It's simply the most efficient option available. By 180 CE, The families controlled 80% of Rome's grain supply without owning 80% of anything. They had built a system where independent businesses chose to participate in family-controlled networks because alternatives had become uncompetitive. The families had become essential infrastructure. Picture Emperor Marcus Aurelius dealing with Germanic invasions. Who does he turn to for reliable grain supplies? The families who had made themselves indispensable to imperial stability. This relationship gave them political protection, new laws governing grain storage, written by former family lawyers now serving as imperial advisors. Safety standards for shipping, developed by technical experts who consulted for the Barbie fleet. The families didn't corrupt the regulatory process, they became the regulatory process. But their greatest achievement was social legitimacy. The grain families had transcended mere wealth to achieve aristocratic status. Young Marcus Sextius III received congratulations from senators and generals. His sister engaged to a patrician's son. When critics emerged, the families deployed perfect defenses. Our coordination prevents waste. Thousands of jobs depend on our operations. Rome's food security requires the stability we provide. Emperor Antoninus Pius captured the reality. I command legions and rule provinces, but when Romans eat their daily bread, they depend on arrangements I do not control. Dominance created the seeds of its own destruction. Success bred confidence, but confidence became arrogance. The crisis began in 204 CE. Flooding in Egypt, unrest in Africa, piracy in the Mediterranean. The family saw opportunity in crisis. Picture Marcus Sextius reviewing grain reserves that could maintain normal Roman supply for months. His accountants present a different calculation. Artificial scarcity could triple profits while demonstrating the family's indispensable nature. Grain releases slowed to a trickle. Bread prices spiked 60%. Hungry crowds filled Roman streets while grain sat unused in family warehouses. When Emperor Severus summoned the families expecting cooperation, they arrived with ultimatums. Caesar, Marcus Sextius explained with condescension, the empire's food security requires permanent adjustments, exemptions from price controls, exclusive licensing, formal partnerships that ensure continued stability. He wasn't requesting imperial favor. He was dictating terms to an emperor. The families had made the fatal mistake, confusing their control of essential services with immunity from political consequences. Emperor Severus's response became a masterclass in dismantling entrenched monopolies. 6 months later, imperial engineers breaking ground for massive state granaries designed to hold 6 months of Rome's grain supply. Roman agents negotiating grain agreements with Germania and Gaul. Imperial grain corporations, funded by the state treasury, competing directly with family operations. New laws required vertical separation. Companies could own farms or ships or storage facilities, but not integrated control across the entire supply chain. Most devastatingly, Severus published detailed documentation of the family's artificial scarcity during the crisis. Roman citizens read evidence of deliberate hunger while grain sat unused in private warehouses. Within 5 years, the family's market share collapsed from 80% to less than 40%. Their political protection evaporated. Their social legitimacy disappeared. The crisis that had seemed to demonstrate their indispensability instead revealed their fundamental vulnerability. Even the most sophisticated monopoly ultimately depends on continued political tolerance. The grain family's rise and fall reveals a pattern that has repeated across industries, technologies, and civilizations for 2 millennia. Stage 1. Innovation. Entrepreneurs identify genuine problems and create real value. Markets improve. Consumers benefit. Success enables expansion. Stage 2. Consolidation. Success breeds coordination rather than competition. Vertical integration creates efficiencies, but also barriers. Dependency networks form around dominant players. Stage 3. Dominance. Market control enables political influence. Regulatory capture protects advantages. Social legitimacy makes challenges difficult. Essential status provides leverage. Stage 4. Overreach. Dominance breeds overconfidence. Essential status feels like immunity. Crisis becomes opportunity for extraction rather than service. Private power explicitly challenges public authority. Stage 5. Collapse. Overreach triggers systematic replacement. Alternative infrastructure emerges, regulatory protection disappears, public tolerance ends, coordination advantage becomes coordination vulnerability. But here's the crucial insight. The cycle doesn't end with collapse. It resets and begins again. After Severus destroyed the grain families, new merchants gradually rebuilt integrated operations using identical strategies. Within generations, Rome faced similar concentrations of food supply control. The monopoly playbook survived because the playbook works. Medieval guilds followed the same pattern. Innovation to solve coordination problems, consolidation to eliminate waste, dominance through political protection, overreach through extraction, collapse through systematic replacement. Today we're watching identical patterns across multiple industries simultaneously. Tech platforms began by connecting people and organizing information. Success enabled infrastructure control. Dominance created political influence. Essential status provides leverage against regulation. The question isn't whether today's monopolies will face their Roman moment. It's recognizing where we are in the cycle and what comes next. Understanding the hidden cycle reveals why monopoly formation follows predictable patterns regardless of specific technologies, industries, or historical periods. The cycle exists because it exploits fundamental features of how complex economies work: the value of coordination, the efficiency of standardization, the power of network effects. These advantages are real, which is why monopolistic control keeps emerging. But the cycle also contains its own correction mechanism. Success breeds overconfidence. Essential status creates attractive targets. Extractive behavior triggers replacement. Democratic systems eventually mobilize against private control of public necessities. Every monopoly faces the same choice the Roman grain families faced: continue serving markets or start exploiting them. The cycle's seductive power lies in making exploitation appear to be service, control appear to be efficiency, private advantage appear to be public benefit. The Roman families weren't uniquely evil or exceptionally clever. They discovered a system that works so well, it gets rediscovered repeatedly throughout history. Today's tech giants, pharmaceutical corporations, and agricultural monopolies are following strategies that would be instantly recognizable to Marcus Sextius. But awareness of the pattern provides something previous generations lacked: the ability to recognize where we are in the cycle while it's happening, rather than only after it's completed. The monopoly cycle reveals both warning and opportunity. Warning that concentrated private control of essential services inevitably becomes extractive. Opportunity that democratic institutions can learn to manage the cycle rather than simply endure it. The grain families thought their essential status made them untouchable. They learned that being too big to fail often means being too powerful to tolerate. Today's monopolies face the same choice: adapt to democratic oversight while retaining much of their success, or resist until political forces make that choice for them. The cycle is 2,000 years old and shows no signs of stopping. But our recognition of how it works might finally give us the tools to direct it rather than be directed by it.